What's up guys, Lvladen here, and today I'm coming at you with a video about my user interface and add-ons. Now this has been something that is heavily requested, and I apologize for not making this video sooner. I had videos in the past covering this, but unfortunately I just have not had a ton of time to make an in-depth breakdown of what I use for my UI. So first things first, I'm going to drop the build, or not the build code import, the UI code import in the description of the video. So if you like the way that I have my my edit mode set up, so like party frames over here on the left side, looking like raid frames, my bars, anything like that, you can copy these settings from the code in the bottom. I'm also going to leave a link to the Mez WeakOr package because I'm going to be referencing WeakOrs a lot, and that is the most commonly requested add-on. It's actually WeakOrs, specifically the Mez WeakOr package, and what that does is it shows some text, some sounds, and some icons for particular important cooldowns. I'm actually not running the most up-to-date version, so the one that you will download now is actually a lot better than the one that I am currently using, and I should probably update it myself. I just lazy and I haven't. On another note, we have this beautiful 2400 sword from passing Elite in Solo Shuffle. So for that, just got to show that off. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, now let's get into the video. So first things first, nameplate scrolling combat text. That is the add-on that I have that displays the icons of the damaging spells next to the number. Definitely a heavily requested add-on, and I got to shout out Tickle. He was the one that showed me this add-on when I asked him about it. Pretty popular add-on if you ask me, and I do like the look of the numbers. Granted, it's not needed. I'll show you guys my settings real quick if we go into nameplate scrolling combat text. So I have it enabled. I have the Blizzard scrolling combat text disabled. Excuse me, I had to sneeze. I also have the settings at 0, no icon offsets, and I have the I'll just give a brief scroll through here. There's nothing I changed too much, but this is a funky setting. Embiggen crits, I set this to 1.75, so the crits are a little bit higher, and I scaled down the smaller hits to about 2/3, so 0.67 right here. So those are the only settings that I've really messed with in the nameplate scrolling combat text. If you just download this as is, you probably would be able to barely tell the difference. All right, probably the next most frequently requested add-on is Omni CD. And what that does is it shows your teammates offensive and defensive and CCs and interrupts and whatever you want it to show on the right or left side of the add-on when they're in the same party. So I'm going to open up the add-on. And now this is something that you're all going to have to uniquely configure, because I cannot, at least I'm pretty sure I cannot send you all what I have here. But basically what you do is you go into Omni CD, you click on Arena, and then you click on Spells. And you track which spell you want to track from which class. So for example, I have a Hunter in my party, and I'm going to go down here to Hunter, and then I'm going to track Muzzle and Counter Shot because I want to know when my teammates have their kicks. This is very helpful in Solo Shuffle. Honestly, I should probably track Intimidation and Scatter Shot as well. Just add a couple more spells to the Hunter toolkit. And anything else, I don't really care. Sometimes you know, less is more. You don't need to track absolutely everything. I just wanted to track the super important spells, in which I deem that is most of the time. That is Turtle, Exhilaration, and their kick. You can track Trap, Scatter, and Intim if you would like. Those are pretty common spells, but other than that, you really don't need to see everything that they do. You can do this setting for every class. So every class, you can track every spell. Anything that you want to track, you can track. Or feel free to not. Doesn't really matter. I just find it helpful knowing if my teammates have a defensive cooldown, I can look without actually having to ask them, or just look in Solo Shuffle to kind of gauge whether I really have to press Blessing of Sacrifice or bop on them. And, you know, yeah, that's about it. It's pretty easy add-on to configure. Trying to think about anything else that I have set up here. Oh yeah, so I have my offset on the position to the left. You can change it onto the right side of the frames if you prefer, but I just think it blocks my screen a little bit too much if they're on the right, so I get mine on the left. And while we're on the topic of omnis, I'll talk about Omni CD. And if I do /Omni CD, or not Omni CD, I'm sorry, Omni Bar. This add-on, what it does is it lets you track whatever spells you want to on the enemy team. So for example, with DKs, I have, whenever a DK pushes AMS or anti-magic shell, I get an icon on my screen, and it's usually in the top left above the above my friendly nameplates on the left side here, and it just shows the icon. Simple as that. You can track whatever spells you want to. I tend to stick with just major offensive and defensive cooldowns and kicks. I'm not really tracking Blinding Sleet or something like that. Maybe I could. If you want to, you can. But for me, like I just said, less is more. I like to track just the major defensive and offensive cooldowns, and of course kicks. Anything else, I'm not like super into tracking. There's too much info on the screen, and some people say I already have a lot of info on the screen, and lately I'm agreeing. I kind of wanted to roll back some of my at least the size, the scale of my UI. I might drop the scale of my personal nameplates, because I like having them in the middle to look at, but at the same time, looking at some old videos of mine, they are a little large. But yep, that's about it for Omni Bar. If it gets too much in BGs, I think there's a way to make it work only in arena here. So visibility, yeah. So if it's too much in BGs, because for example, maybe you're fighting like 3 Death Knights, and all of a sudden you see 3 Mind Freezes and 2 Pummels and 5 AMSs, I don't know, however many cooldowns. You can untrack it in Battlegrounds and rated Battlegrounds, but I do like having it in arenas. All right, that's about it for Omni Bar. Next up, we have Tell Me When. So in order to open that, we're going to type /tmw. And what this is basically another weak aura, another version of weak auras. And I'll get into weak auras right after this. But I have basically an extra bar here. And what it does is it allows me to track a spell or debuff or buff. And I used to use this add-on prior to the UI rework. Now with the UI rework, you can have extra bars and stuff, so you really don't need this add-on anymore. But for me, I track my my procs on it. So let me try and get a proc here. So you can see I track a Blessing of Dawn, a Seal of Order. See if I can get a Trinket proc right here, or maybe a Sophic Devotion. I also track my Sophic Devotion, but not a super important add-on, and definitely a preferential add-on, because you can use weak auras the same way that you use Tell Me When, and you can almost use the default bar UI the same way as well. All right, now on to the big one, weak auras. For weak auras, I'm going to leave a link in the description for the most important weak aura that you want. That is the Mez Dragonflight weak aura package that shows the add-ons such as like Healing Tide Totem, Warbreaker from Warriors, major cooldown usage, and it attaches either text or sound icons to it. I actually have an old version of it, so it's not ideal for me. I should probably update it. And my weak auras are very weird. Like I have so many weak auras and I don't use most of them. But the Mez Weak Aura Dragonflight package, I'll leave a link in the description. That is what you want to download. It's this right here. I'm not going to mess with the settings, but basically you download that, and all of a sudden you get a ton of weak auras on your screen, and it's going to look like a jumbled mess. But for me, this actually, for some reason, is loading every single weak aura I've ever used on all my classes. Don't worry, it's not going to be this messy. But see this text up here, like Chill Streak, Warbreaker, I believe that's Soul Rot, Deathmark, etc., Convoke. Those are contained inside of the Dragonflight Weak Aura package, or the Mez Dragonflight Weak Aura package. So I would check that out. And if you guys like it, use it. And if not, you don't have to use it. It is what it is. There's also plenty of other weak auras out there that do similar functions, or you could always create your own. For example, I created a weak aura to track my, let me see if I can click on it, my Empyrean Legacy. This is just a, oh, actually, it's contained in this ret thing. So there's another weak aura. I'm honestly not sure where this is anymore. But if for example, I wanted to make an Empyrean Legacy tracker, let me walk you guys through how it would work. So I would go into, let me close out on weak auras so we can just get a fresh look. New aura, I would do icon, and then you're going to go to trigger. And then sometimes I like to shift the weak aura to the right and move the icon to the left for now, just so I can see both working at the same time. I'm going to click on name, and then I'm going to click on aura name. And I'm going to type Empyrean Legacy, and I'm going to push OK. And then I'm going to go to display, and I believe I want to enable swipe timer, show swipe, because we like that little countdown timer on the icon here. If you disable these, it's not going to show like a standard Blizzard cooldown would look like, or buff would look like. It's just the way that I like it. You can choose to have it on or off, but in theory, let's make this huge. Obnoxiously huge, so we can go delete it later. In theory, when we go over to the PvP training dummy and we proc an Empyrean Legacy, there it is. Whoop-de-doo. You see a giant Empyrean Legacy. Definitely don't need anything. You don't even need to track your Empyrean Legacy, but if you want to get on top of your game of lining up your bursts, especially with the old, the JV double stack Dawn one-shot build that I've been messing around with in BGs, it is important to track your cooldowns. And you can do this with Divine Arbiter as well. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this right here because I don't need it to be that big. Mine is just below my Holy Power bar along with my Divine Arbiter. Those are where my Divine Arbiter stats are tracked. Outside of that, I don't think there's anything else to share on Weak Aura. And once again, it is in the description of the video. All right, next up we have Gladius. So I opened up my Gladius by typing /Gladius test 1 through 3. And I guess it just gave us 5 icons because back in the day, we had available 5v5 arena, but we do not have that anymore. So this is the add-on that I use to track enemy casted spells, see what classes they are, see their trinket cooldowns and their racial cooldowns. Pretty standard stuff. There's a million copies of it out there. If anyone wanted to get a different version, there's S Arena as well. Both are customizable. Just Gladius is what I've used forever. And changing out of it for me, it hasn't been warranted quite yet. So that's what I use. And last but not least, we have Details, our damage tracker here. Allows me to see, the damage breakdown of my abilities and my teammates' abilities and the enemies. And you can, one way I've noticed how to improve over, the past couple of expansions is tracking, checking out interrupts. So you can find those under miscellaneous here. And also deaths. So you can see what you died to specifically and then how many globals you had to react. Sometimes you're dying from full within one global. One global is roughly 1.5 second cooldowns, depending on 1.5 seconds. Oh my God, what am I saying? 1.5 seconds. There we go. Reduced by haste for some classes. So you can track it in deaths there, track interrupts, track dispels, see if one of your healers screwed up and dispelled an unstable affliction on you and kill you or themselves. Yeah, so bunch of information, bunch of data here. Definitely unnecessary add-on if you do not want it. But those are it for my add-ons. Again, I'm going to be dropping the weak aura in the description and also the code for my UI build. All right, next up we have macros. All right, so before we get into the macros, I want to talk about party macros and party positions. So in an arena as a Red Paladin, you are going to need a lot of keybinds for your teammates. That includes binds for Blessing of Sanctuary, Blessing of Sacrifice, Protection, Freedom, Flash Heal, Word of Glory, Lay on Hands. There are a lot of teammate utility spells that you have as a Paladin and specifically as a Ret Paladin. Getting a Sanctuary off in the moment before a CC lands on yourself, getting it off on your healer, is a lot of the times, oftentimes, the difference maker in games, especially with how fast the meta is right now. So one thing I want to talk about is party positions. So I have a warrior in my party here. I'm the party leader. If this warrior joins my party in 2v2 arena, all of my party 1 spells and macros are going to go on him. So if I hit my party 1 Blessing of Sacrifice, it goes on him. See, gets that sacrifice icon. Same with Freedom and Sanctuary and Flash Heal. All of those go on him without me having to drop my current target or select him at all. That is the efficiency with party macros. I will cover an add-on called dynamic macros in the future, but currently I'm not using dynamic macros. So if anyone has any questions about that, I'm saving that for a future video because that is a different way to play. Or I'm sorry, it's a very similar way to play, but it requires an add-on versus macros. I use macros to control all my party abilities. So say, for example, I invite another teammate to my party here. That teammate will take party 2 position. And what I like to do is I like to right-click and promote to leader the healer of the party so they're in party 1. So if I'm ever doing 3v3 arena, I like to promote my healer to lead when I join the game if he doesn't land in the party 1 slot, because sometimes he'll land in party 2 slot if I'm queuing us up as lead. If he's queuing up lead and he joins late, sometimes he's not slotted in the party 1 slot, and you will need to promote him raid lead regardless if he's the one that queued you in the arena. In solo shuffle, sometimes it's not as helpful. Sometimes you aren't going to be able to get your party member to promote the healer to lead, in which case you're just going to have to press party 2 for your healer. And the way I like to figure that out is typically it's like who is higher up on the party frame above you is typically party 1. And I just test that out by hitting flash heal to see who's party 1. But 9 times out of 10, if you ask for them to do something, at least in my experience, and we were able to make it to above 2,400 doing this pretty early in the season, it works just fine for me. And if you guys want to excel and improve as a rep paladin, you're definitely going to have to start to get comfortable with party macros for all your blessings. All right, this is perfect. I just had a friend join the party, so I can explain exactly how these party 2 and party 1 macros work. So I have the healer here, Reske. Currently, he should be party 2. So I'm hitting my party 2 flash of light. He is party 2. If I promote him to lead here, he becomes party 1. So he's higher than the warrior in the friendly raid nameplates or party plates, whatever you want to call them. So now if I push my party 1 sacrifice, it goes on Reske. If I push my party 1 sanctuary, it goes on Reske. And I remove my target, or we'll target this Volparadox. But if I push my party 2 Blessing of Protection, it goes in the Warrior. Blessing of Freedom, party 2, Warrior. Let's get a Wake of Ashes into a party 1, Word of Glory. Goes in the healer here. So that's what I mean by whoever's higher up in this little like scenario of like who's on top of who. That's kind of how I tell who is party 1 versus party 2. And then you kind of just float in wherever. I still haven't figured out Blizzard's reasoning between like where you end up in the raid frame, because sometimes I'm in the middle, sometimes in the bottom, but typically it's whoever is higher up is the party 1 and whoever's lower than them is party 2, excluding yourself. All right, now we go on to the macros. All right, per usual, I'm going to drop my macros in the description of the video. If anyone is curious why my Blade of Justice looks like Exorcism, that is due to a macro I made right here. You just click on the change name icon right here, and then you click on Exorcism. And that's how you change the look of your spells to older spells. So my Wake of Ashes looks like, if I drag this macro down here, looks like the old Holy Wrath. If I pull down this macro right here of Shield of Vengeance, it looks like the old Sacred Shield. It's just because I'm an old-time Paladin player. That is why those macros or those icons look the way that they do. I just made them that way. Now on to my burst macros. So let me just make sure you guys can see this here. Okay, give me 1 second. All right, that should be a little bit better so you can see the text now. Burst macro just has my Badge of Ferocity in it, Volatile Crimson Embers, and Saltwater Potion. These are just BG and World PvP potions that you can use. They don't actually function in rated PvP. I have my Cancel Aura macro. What this does is if I push Freedom and I push the macro on my bar, it cancels Freedom so I can stop mages from spell stealing it. Same goes with Blessing of Protection. I have my Mouse over Cleanse Toxins for the rare occasion that I take this spell right here. I have this Final Reckoning macro, and this is what drops Final Reckoning automatically on push down of Final Reckoning on your cursor. So a lot of people think I have a macro that does it at my target. I don't actually have a macro that does it at my target. I'm just targeting them with my cursor, and I'm pushing the button. So it gets rid of the green targeting circle, or gets rid of the press for the green targeting circle. Next up, I have my mouse over Hand of Freedom. This is on my R key. And what this does is if I don't have a target selected, and it functions different than a party 1 and party 2 macro. So if I'm physically like mousing my cursor over someone, or mousing it over their party frame, it will cast the freedom on them. And I have that for Blessing of Protection as well as Lay on Hands and Flash Heal and Word of Glory both function the same way as this mouse over Hand of Freedom macro. And the only thing that I'm going to mention in terms of the mouse over macros that you need to know is that you either need to change the @ after the @ sign to player or your character's name, either one. I have mine in before that functionality was a thing, so I had my character's name, but you can actually just change this to @player, and it should work the same. Next up, I'll show an example of a party macro, what that looks like. /cast target equals party 1, Blessing of Freedom, but it's going to be copy-pasted for pretty much every one of my helpful blessing spells here. They're all going to be party 1 or party 2, and I'm going to have basically 3 keybinds for each of my blessings. You can macro this all together if you want. There are ways to do that. This is just the way that I prefer to play. And then I have my focus rebuke here. So if I press rebuke on a target, I kick the target. If I'm holding down shift, I kick my focus target. And I have that same macro, and I will leave that macro in the description for my Hammer of Justice. Just going to show a quick example of what that focus macro looks like. So I'm going to set this PvP training dummy here to focus. It's my focus target. You can see it to the left of my character. I'm actually going to deselect the PvP training dummy, and I don't know, I'll target a friendly here. Selrith Rex, something like that. Rex. We'll call him Rex. So if I hold down shift, Hammer of Justice is going to be cast on this target right here. Beautiful. And if I didn't hold shift, it would just cast it on my primary target. And same with rebuke here. We're going to go ahead and just rebuke that guy. Slap, backhand, got him. But yeah, that is how a shift modifier macro works for your crowd control abilities as a Ret Paladin. I have a shift modifier macro for my Final Verdict and my Divine Storm. Actually, hardly ever press Divine Storm in PvP. The Divine Storm that you do see go off is from the talent Empyrean Legacy here. So I'm going to go ahead and just show that. So if I get 3 holy power and I push this keybind U, which is a button on my mouse for anyone who is curious, I cast Final Verdict. And if I hold shift and then push U, it casts Divine Storm. Pretty simple macro. Same logic as the whole focus shift modifier macros. It's just a shift modifier macro. All right, guys, that is about it for my UI and my macros. There really isn't too fancy of anything that I have going on here. My macros are actually full because of all the classes that I play using macros here. But yeah, if anyone has any further questions, or if I've missed anything important in the UI and macro guide, please let me know in the comments below. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope this was helpful. And be sure, once again, to check the description of the video for the links to the WeCore package and the link to my UI here. All right, see you next time. Peace.